Also for the audience, Shanti and Dipesh are the Schwab social innovators. I think 2020, if I'm right.
Yeah.
And Shanti has received national awards from two of our presidents, not one, from Mr. Pranab Mukherjee and Pratibha Patil ma'am. So really nice to have you guys here. We are also joined by two of our co-hosts, Saurav and Dr. Renuka. So, I mean, this is the first time we are having a really inclusive session, and nothing better than a session around physical disability. So, welcome, Dr. Renuka and Saurav. So, Dr. Renuka holds a PhD in social work and is a senior sign language interpreter with an experience over 20 years in the field. We have also been joined by Dr. Saurav Raichaudhuri, who is a certified Indian Sign Language interpreter and a member of Association of Sign Language Interpreters. So very much welcome, and thank you guys for joining in. So, I mean, while we're talking about Dr. Renuka and Saurav, I mean, Shanti, Dipesh, can you give me just an idea? I mean, just for out of curiosity, you guys go to many events, right? In the mainstream world, how common is it to have an interpreter or other inclusive, means? Where do we stand as a nation? Do we see this as a practice? Are we seeing this as a practice these days?
Dipesh, would you like to answer that?
Yeah, no, so we definitely don't see this often. But at the same time, when we see it as well, and I think one of the things we have to realize is that there is a difference between accessibility and usability. And I think it's in the whole world as well, right? Because accessibility does not mean just signing, and even though it's just signing names and letters and all that. It's how does the person understand? Do I need to explain that? So how do I explain volume, or how do I explain various jargons, which, for example, mortgage? I can't just sign mortgage and everybody will understand, right? So these are various important factors I think is critical in this accessibility overall. In the deaf also, we can see that it's not that common where we see sign language everywhere in that sense.
I would say, Anirban, that, because of a lot of good organizations in the country who have been advocating and ensuring it is happening if possible, but it's obviously not given everywhere. We are working closely with the Goa government, and there we are making sure it will happen at all events, and that's going to happen shortly. But as Dipesh mentioned about accessibility, just before this call, much before this, Saurav and Dr. Renuka both were told some of the words like honest, so that when we say honest, it sounds like honest, like, something else, or what are we talking about? What's that topic? So that it's accessible. And just before this call, we talked about one of these words. Maybe you'll need to explain this. This may be a little, or we will, when we are talking about it, will explain it so that it becomes more accessible. Actually, it's not for the deaf. I think we also have a lot of people from the disability world who have joined today, right? So when you start thinking of the most difficult dot, which in this case in communication could be the deaf, you're going to include everybody else on the call. So.
Right, perfect. And while you talk about honest, for the people who have joined us for the first time, Open Network for Education and Skills Transactions, I can see probably tomorrow I don't have to go through a Shanti or Dipesh to find a Dr. Renuka or Saurav. On honest, tomorrow I'll be able to very easily discover such things, probably a purple package while I'm kind of putting up an event. I can buy that package and there will be these inclusive channels and means to help them out. Awesome. Good to have you guys. So, first things first, Shanti, can you enlighten us on, you guys were working on a very orthogonal track, right? You guys were working on how to enable people of India with physical disabilities. How did you come up across Beckn and ONDC and honest all these ideas, and what motivated you to think about it as a mean of inclusion?
Yeah, it's a very good question. So Enable India, the work we've been doing for 24 years, we have a sense of urgency that because we have been able to unleash, we've been able to see value, where others did not, and others means obviously people in our sector understand, but not everybody else, right? And so we today say that if you have breadth, you have value, So with this, we feel a sense of urgency that our learnings are, the value of persons with disability has to get unleashed for the country. So at population level, when you're thinking, Beckn came to our mind, and why, I will actually tell you, right? First is our own learnings from digital infrastructure, okay? We have a very interesting rural social networking platform called Vani. It's Hamari Vani, Nama Vani in different languages. And that's platform which is just an IVR system, obviously a voice-based system. And in that, persons with disability are networking with each other and solving each other's problems. I'm not going into details of how it works. Now, in that, what have we seen? We've actually seen, for example, people, there was I think it was a family of 5 musicians who are blind. They're in one location. Okay. And they kept saying that, this is my platform. This is something where I feel equal, right? There's a platform of other persons with disability, etc. So they actually advertised and said, guys, we perform, we do things. Can we get gigs? And they are in some part of Karnataka. And suddenly, the network in this Vani started discovering them and started giving them gigs. So they earned during Ganesh, in fact, it's very interesting, it was Ganesh Chaturthi, and they actually earned some 25,000, which is quite a good sum in a rural area. And in fact, they told us later that they also, paid for some niece's operation or something. I mean, it was a very touching story from that. But what are you seeing here? They could actually discover somebody, like he could only maybe, the musicians may know only 10 people in their village maybe. And here suddenly with this whole virtual, access, many people contacted them. So this was point number 1. So why are we interested in Beckn? Very simple for us, and this will also help our audiences coming from the disability world. The way we are understanding Beckn, and Dipesh and Anirban, just correct me if I'm wrong. But for me, Beckn is like how we look at roads. When we are driving, we're not looking at the roads. We're like, a road exists. But because of that, somebody can go from Kashmir to Kanyakumari, or God knows from here to, all the way perhaps, via God knows, to Europe also. I don't know, right? If it's possible. So with that kind of thing, we are able to transact any kind of commerce, right? That means a truck can go from, north to south or wherever it is. And we also can enter any petrol pump. We can go to any kind of, there's an ATM on the way. It's not like, oh, this ATM is out of I don't even know that this petrol pump is there. It's seeable on the road. I can see the ATM, I can see the bank, I can see the library. So everything is visible to me. It's not like my personal road, you can't come into my road, and your personal road. So the fact is, if we look at population scale, the reason why we are struggling, all of us in the development world, why we are struggling, and and including disabilities, if we are working on employment, it's my private road. And I will only know my petrol pump, and you will know your ATM machine. This is not going to work. The problem is too big, and actually we don't see it as a problem. We see the opportunity in it. So Beckn, go Beckn. Okay, can I be the cheerleader?
The only thing I want to add, Anirban, is basically that if the road is bad, we'll notice, by the way. So if the road is good, we don't notice.
I am totally stealing this analogies. The way you say that, okay, there are petrol pumps in the road, there are ATMs in the road. I can just imagine that, okay, I'm going to really use this analogies in my next event wherever I am going.
And by the way, that's the disability advantage, because we are thinking of everybody, So that's why our material will be more accessible. Okay, whatever.
Right. So now, when you talk about discoverability, I can't imagine a better possibility or an opportunity to kind of bring this inclusion. I mean, with open networks, the whole idea is to make everybody and everything and every service provider discoverable to every user. So nothing better than that. And when we talk about
you're not inclusive currently. But currently you're not very, which is very, please talk about that.
Correct. And so basically, I mean, that's a good cue actually. So what we are doing for the audience who are here, especially from the tech community, so with input from Enable India, we kind of realized that even in our protocol, Beckn protocol, we need to add an element, or keep an element to indicate the service providers or the users that this is a service or a good that can be consumed by people with disabilities. This is a special need that I have, or this is a special help that I'm offering. So we are trying to make protocol aware of these disabilities. And once we make the protocol aware, naturally the service providers, the users also become very aware. So we are very happy to announce that we are making that attempt, and please feel free to put in your opinion, recommendations at our GitHub repository. I think there is an ongoing thread. My colleague Dheeraj will help you to, with the link. So you can go there, you can follow the discussion that is happening. You can put in your comment from a tech perspective, from a functional perspective. Please feel free. So Great. Now, coming to the deployment or the actual adoption part of it, Shanti, I think you are already seeing some traction, right? I have heard about the Namayatri story, and I think they are doing a great thing along with you guys as well as with Honest. Can you kind of give us an idea what Namayatri is doing around this?
Yeah, sure. So first of all, for those who are outside Bangalore, for us, there is a revolution thanks to open networks and Namayatri, right? Here's this amazing auto ride, and of course now it's going to go to other mobilities type. It's an account aggregator, but with a difference because it's open networks, right? So the fact is that there's very less that usually in other auto account aggregations that the auto driver will get, but here we pay the driver. Everything. We just pay the driver, and it's just amazing. And we had already heard the buzz about Namayatri, by the way, Anirban. You don't know this, but at Enable India, a lot of people are like, you got to use Namayatri. Why? It's driver, pro. So that's the beauty about open networks, because everybody is equal in it. You don't have one big multinational. You could be anybody. Now here in this, Namayatri is run by these amazing founders of JustPay, etc. So they're already they're pro driver, pro everybody, right? So when we spoke to the Namayatri team as the first thing, we decided we'll do it in phases. We did a survey within Enable India, and guess what? Already there were people who were using Namayatri and they were facing some problems, and we must tell you who's our best customer in Namayatri. One of the girls who just joined Enable India in November, she has spent almost 1 lakh on Namayatri till now, by the way. Okay, but what she was saying was, some of the screens are not accessible because as a person who's blind, I need my screen reader to work with that software. So there were a couple of issues like that. So that is being taken care of by Namayatri. But more importantly, when they do the soft launch, which will be very quickly, the consumer will be asked, hey, do you have a disability so that we can serve you better? So that happens on the consumer side. On the driver side, they'll come to know it's a purple ride, and purple being the color for disability, nice color. So they'll see that purple ride. And then if it's, say, for example, if it's a deaf person, because consumer has already said, right, that they're deaf, then the calling option is being disabled. It's not available. And so they can only chat. And it says, hey, deaf, so therefore chat. It's a different issue. We're working on the learning modules, very nice, beautiful simulated videos. But apart from that, the deaf can be only chatted with, which is very important, because our deaf colleagues were saying, you feel so bad that, I have a child, I'm a wife, I'm whatever, and now suddenly I have to give somebody else dependently that, hey, please answer the call. So that gets taken care of. Same way for the blind, it's vice versa. And for the person with physical disability, it says something. So very simple modifications. Now, when this guy completes his ride, this is the cool part, he'll get a purple badge, and there's a certain incentive kind of thing done, and have I forgotten anything?
The driver, right?
Yeah, the driver gets that purple badge. So he gets an acknowledgement that you're accumulating purple points, and that kind of incentivizes, I'm doing something good. We're doing the same in the videos also, making it very interesting and engaging. Dipesh, anything I've forgotten?
Yeah, no. So I think this is where they get purple badges, is what we are kind of looking at. And one interesting thing I think if you look at is, this is where we talk about accessibility to usability, but I think it has gone beyond that to experience. I think the user experience, right? And I think it's not only talking about accessibility. Namayatri app became accessible. Okay, we made it usable, but experience, right? The driver and the whole experience between supply and demand, I think that is significant. I think that is where it is very exciting.
Exactly. So that is what the whole purple economy is about, right? I mean, opening up opportunities, opening up service discoverability, accessibility, and usability, and probably experience part of it. So probably, can you guys help us to understand, when we say purple economy, how big is it? What is the opportunity that we are talking about? What can be the upside of that, right? I mean, probably across India and across globe.
Yeah. Before that, Anirban, I definitely want to acknowledge what Bharat is saying. Yes, it would be great if you can send your deaf-friendly recommendations. You can also just write to us at enableindia.org. And I think Ramya has talked about, that she's finding this whole Namayatri thing awesome. So, yay, thank you so much. Okay. So if you want to understand more about this purple economy, I think, we'll have to go a little back in time, because we found that that's an easier way for people to understand. So there's a very curious thing that happened in the 13th century. Actually, lenses, etc., were invented. but it was only being used by the rich. And basically, you didn't have how you could go to a Titan showroom and just get your eyeglasses or a lens card. None of this was actually available at all. And we've been wondering about this, why? So I think we think the reason for that is because people are seeing, at that time, the people like us who are wearing eyewear, and by the way, all of us, right, Anirban, Dipesh, me, we all are wearing glasses. We all would have been considered visually challenged. By the way, we don't use such words. We say person with disability. The terminology is much better now, but whatever, visually, has a challenge, is blind, whatever. And so we were being looked at with limitations. Oh, what's this? What can Anirban do? But Anirban is an inspiration. Anirban is going around like this, somehow managing and doing jewelry, but looking at it like this and all that. But what a great inspiration Anirban is. Yeah, Anirban, that's nice.
Yeah, and actually without a glass, I am almost like
Totally.
visually disabled because I have a -4, so you can just imagine.
I like that. Okay, same with me. Okay, so the funny thing is, why we are being considered an inspiration at that time, because keep going through this difficulty. That's why you're an inspiration. You know what? I don't want to be an inspiration at that time. Can you just give me that eyewear which was available to the rich? So thank God somebody, understands that we also can pay money. Yeah, maybe it happens even today, maybe very poor locations, there is a problem, but then you still have this 100 rupee eyewear. You don't get that, fancy schmancy eyewear, right? So anyway, so basically somewhere along the way, around the 19th or 18th century, somebody has thought of making money from it. And today the eyewear industry is a $169 billion industry, and there are millions of people having jobs in that industry, preying of our weakness. Actually, I'm purposely saying these silly words of preying or whatever, because I think otherwise, people bucket you. You have a limitation, that's it. You're poor fellow. You're still the same guy with or without glasses, something like that. So anyway, so that's how we realized that there is an economy which is around persons with disability and actually people with difficulties. We all have difficulties which we don't realize requires, we are consumers still, So that's how purple economy got started. So if I can actually, and this was an insight we had, because we just realized, wait a minute, like you are seeing Renuka and Saurav interpreters here. There are, maybe 1,000 or whatever, just hardly 1,000 interpreters, but the number of persons who are deaf are so many. So we're like, why are people not seeing that economic opportunity? Why are there more jobs not getting created? Then that's when the aha hit us. That's what happened between 13th and 19th century. No, boss, we're going to change that scenario. We're not going to wait for 6 centuries, for millions of interpreters being there in the country. That's how we got the idea of purple economy. And if I then take examples, so Dipesh, maybe we should talk about the potential market size, and then maybe I can give an example.
Yeah. So I think like Anirban mentioned at the beginning, the market size of this economy with the WHO report says $8 trillion is a disposable income of persons with disability in this market. And if you include their family and friend, it goes to about $13 trillion. So you can imagine a $13 trillion economy, which is not even tapped into, right? And if you look at the numbers wise, there are said that 15% of the world population is persons with disability. And in India, I think we have 2.6%, which is 26 million, where 7 disabilities were recognized. But I think today, because of 21 disabilities, we think it is about 100 million. And if you add let's say two members of the family, you're talking about 300 million people who are impacted with this. So that is the number we are talking about here.
Yeah. And I'm just seeing the chat, and Kshitij has mentioned that he really liked what we said about the deaf, because that is the issue that they deal with all the time. And for Shrikant, Namayatri, yes, I think they are planning in other cities. Now, Anirban, we're already generating excitement for other cities. Maybe our guys in the collective are going to do something.
I think even people from Just are also here. They are taking note where the demand is coming from.
Cities, right? And Shrikant is saying plan for cities like Chennai, Goa, Mumbai, Cochin. Just go everywhere.
Yes,
that's what
the tab as well.
Yeah, you feel good about it, Yeah. So just to give an example of why we still, why are we, so we gave the example of the interpreter, etc. But we were just thinking, the Renu example that we had shared with you, Anirban, it's a good one to talk of, right? So somebody a girl who is at the age of 12.
Yeah, you can bring up the slide as well if you want. I mean, we have time. I mean, that's I think a very visually impactful thing. So
I think maybe I'll just go through that. Yeah, I think that's a good one to show, because that'll connect with the audience. And just let me just yeah. So I think, this is the example we had, and thanks, Anirban, because of you, I can, show this slide. So we were just talking about somebody like Renu, who at the age of 12, gets a physical disability. And, what happens to her? Usually, you're only at home sitting because you don't even know what can be done. You are, then years are lost even for you to know that there's something called a prosthetic. Years are lost before you even go to school, because nobody tells you that you actually can go to school as a person with disability. And then many years are lost before you actually get a job, etc. Or on the other hand, even if you want to go out, there are many issues. But what we see, with, the purple economy, I mean, we are jumping a little ahead, Anirban, but to an extent, if with open networks, what happens to a Renu, is what we can see here on the slide. Would you like me to go through that right now?
Yeah? It's fine. It's up to you. I mean, but I mean,
so let me do that.
You can complete the story.
Well. Because we were talking about purple economy. We will come back to it again, but it also tells you that power, right? Like, so for example, why we are saying purple economy today, there's no healthcare provider who's thinking from a Renu's angle, but actually if they do, they make money from that, right? So, now we already have these open networks available like Ayushman Bharat Digital Mission. And then, we purposely took this activities of daily living. It's, first of all, like a vendor should be coming at a doorstep and trying to make money like how we are doing it with the glasses, right? And more importantly, that, when you have a disability, you may need that activities, the things you could do before maybe is a little bit of a challenge now. So those activities of daily living are also skills. Honest is perfect for that because it's an open network, and, these skills could be available there in micro skilling ways and etc. And then, I think the beauty about open networks is not, these things may be available today, and maybe a skill is available somewhere in the country. You know how I see all of these just now, Anirban? Sorry, through WhatsApp groups. And I'm like, oh my God, the guy who needs to know it doesn't know this. So the most important thing in all of this is, how do I discover this? And I don't know, when I've been seeing these WhatsApp groups, I've stopped looking at them because I can see data that has to go to everybody. So the beauty about an open network is wherever you are, I'm going to still see you. I know about you. If there's only one supplier of ADL in the country, but I should still be able to know that guy. And that's the beauty about an open network, and same way, right? Yeah. It's very likely maybe Renu can pay for her finance, cannot pay. It doesn't matter. Why? Maybe there are finance agents who now start thinking, wait a minute, I will give a physiotherapy loan. Let me give an education loan, an assistive solution loan, right? A wheelchair loan, prosthetic loan. So they can start thinking of different instruments, and that means bigger market, and now they would know also that people can pay. And if not, there will be government schemes, and maybe there's a person who helps Renu to get the government scheme. So that's the agent, government scheme agent. So we see gig jobs, we see different jobs that have not been thought about. I'll give you one more example. Very often people like Renu, when they go to a school, they are told, nee, aap jaise log, so I should not tell it in Hindi if there is an international audience, but people like you, no, we don't take people like you. Now, there is an act, there is a rights for persons with disability that actually, as per the law, you can go. But tell that to the principal. At that time, it may or may not work if you go. But maybe you have, I'm thinking of a new job role, it's called education inclusion agent. So this person, maybe through Honest, gets skills on how to be, how to help a Renu, makes money from that. But what are they doing? They use data to say, hey, there are these many schools who have taken people like Renu. So can you also take Renu, Oh, by the way, there's a law also which protects. So there's that buffer, and Renu doesn't need to fight. I mean, I think if you have to fight for your own education and the parents are doing that, it's not a joke, So anyway, so I hope this makes sense. And I think we had one more where we are talking of Renu using an accessible auto. Adaptive clothing, maybe because I'm in a wheelchair, it's difficult for me can I have magnetic buttons on my pants so that I don't have to kind of pull it up? So where are the adaptive clothing guys? Madhura Garments hearing about this, maybe there are small fashion designers who are like, oh my God, I'm going to just definitely do this. This is my calling in life. Oh, I hope there are people out there who are thinking like that. So anyway, so you get the idea.
We have a lot of people like them today in the audience. And like you say, I see it from both the sides. One is we are solving the problem for the PwDs who are not able to discover the services, discover the goods today. We are solving it for them, while at the same time with open networks, it's emitting so much of data, so much of demand to the whole world. If there are, entrepreneurs on the other side with the right mind, they will probably just watch and say, okay, there's a need for adaptive clothing and nobody is serving it. Why don't I jump in? Why don't I create something which is probably, I don't know, temporarily permanent? I can serve that need. So I think that is the opportunity that we are talking about. And with open networks, suddenly this whole demand is visible to everyone. I mean, people who want to build, and India has so many entrepreneurs today. I mean, we're giving rise to so many unicorns today. I mean, probably the next unicorn is going to be around purple services. You never know, right? So, very great to hear that. So, sorry, Dipesh, you want to add something?
No, I can just tell one more story, just to kind of. So we have a colleague who was obviously student, and he has cerebral palsy, and he has done his IM graduation. So after a long time, obviously got a job, worked well and all that, and like usual, bought a car for himself, doing well and all that. Now he's not able to walk very straight, right? Because he has cerebral palsy, and the walk is slightly challenging in that. So now, how does he drive the car? And this was a challenge, braking and accelerator and all that. So suddenly one day he comes and says that I want to take both of you for a movie. And he's been telling, and then said, I bought a new car, I want to take you for a movie. And suddenly we see he takes us up in the Forum Mall. If many of you have gone to Forum Mall, the circling around, he comes zooming down and all that. And then we say that, how are you able to brake and accelerate? And this is where basically he said that I found a teacher who can teach me how to brake and all that. So there is a specialized driving trainer who is training him how to drive. Now you can see this again. Nobody even bothers, right? How do I find that? How do I discover that kind of equation? And so this was, I thought I'll share that.
And I remember you guys saying that all of these people, they have the propensity to pay. I mean, even with the people that I have kind of interacted with, they are saying that I'm willing to pay a premium or willing to pay a market price to get this service done. They are not looking for charity. They are not looking for somebody to come for free and serve them, right? So it's actually a huge job market that people are missing on.
In fact, just to tell, see, we do know that there are, actually disability also can, so if you're already poor and disability comes, it's a vicious cycle. You get more poor. There, maybe it's possible a government scheme pays you, if you get my point. Maybe through a government scheme. Yeah. But there's a large, because of a large country, you cannot imagine the number of people, like even forget disability, right? A poor family also will always pay for education. They sometimes go to a private school. Why?
Right.
Therein lies the answer, because this is, in fact, if you think of a very poor family with a daily wage laborer, they lose that day's income because they have to go and do some, they have to go to the doctor 10 times. But if something could come to their door, they may say, okay, I'm making only X. Maybe I can give X divided by 2, because otherwise I lose full X to take my child. So we've actually, I think we don't really understand what does it mean, to this unlocking the purple economy is a very wide topic, even for a very poor person. Now, when you talked about the propensity to pay, just remember that I may be disabled, but I'm in a middle class family, or I could be in a upper middle class family, whatever. And more importantly, what has Enable India and many other organizations been doing? We have been ensuring that people with disability are self-employed or in private companies or government jobs. So we are ensuring that they actually will be using your Honest in the future and get even more getting jobs, right? And getting opportunities and unleashing that. That means we are also trying to simultaneously make sure more people are getting jobs, more people are getting skilled and getting the right, education, etc. So this, we're kind of doing them simultaneously. It's a chicken and egg situation. If I can't even go travel to my school, that's the reason I'm not able to generate my value. So if I can travel to my school thanks to some accessible auto, then I go there and then I get an education, then I start earning. But meanwhile, my parents pay for it, etc. So I don't know whether I'm making sense, but I just wanted to put that.
Yeah, totally
Yeah.
making sense. I mean, I hope the honest guys are here who are just taking note of all the opportunities. They know whom to chase, whom to get on the network first, so that they have a lot of consumers, right?
Yeah. And I just want to say that we're here, the folks who are talking, on the chat window, Dr. Veena, we know her really well, and she's saying we can tap into the wealth of different viewpoints and do the financial and social impact and financial sustainability. And Preeti, who's saying that we can solve problems for people with difficulties, which means we are all the customer, which is so true.
So one of the things that's just coming in.
Yeah, please.
So one thing I think what we are seeing, like why Shanti says that there is this whole schemes and things are required. Obviously, that is a core we require. What we are also saying is that the bringing in an economic angle, we are bringing in the demand side. So bringing the demand-led rather than charity-led or system. And when demand-led happens, we know scale can happen. We know mainstream can happen. We can make sure that everybody gets included. So that is what the whole idea of this purple economy is saying. All of these are there, but I think we need to change the think from the whole purple economy angle. That's the whole idea there.
Would it help?
Perfect. That's what I actually. Please. I mean, while you bring up, I mean, that's the best thing that I love about Enable India, that you are kind of putting it out as an opportunity and not from an empathy or a sympathy angle. And I hope everybody relates with that, especially people who are probably entrepreneurs or founders here. So yeah, Shanti, this is a nice slide. Everybody who are out there, probably, I mean, even if you are not an economics student or anything, just try to grasp it. It's so beautiful.
Yeah, and I'm just going to tell this. I'll also, because there are people who may be blind on the call, I will explain what is on this slide. But I'm not an economics person. Dipesh and I heard this from a professor in INSEAD, and from that we learned. So basically, when you talk of an economy, there is a supply curve and a demand curve. And in this, you can actually see, and what do we mean by that is, let me just take the pen. So a supply curve means the people who are supplying things, right? Like it could be an assistive solution or, any kind of service. Like, for example, if my brother who's blind requires a screen reader software to read, so that, a supplier, would be supplying that, Today, the issue is, first of all, there are many things where supply is not there. I told you about Renu, this lady, if she had this agent who would help her to get into school, such a person does not exist as a supplier today, or Dipesh, Sumant, whom you talked about, right? Who required that, who used that inclusive, driving school or whatever. That kind of supply doesn't exist. But even if there is low supply, could they be, today we don't even know where they are. We don't even know where that supply is. And therefore the cost becomes very high. So for example, for a long time, the supply even of screen reader software was very high, and many other wheelchairs, other things like that. So over a period of time, the supply curve is just, going in one direction, upward. So for the people who are blind, you can just imagine the y-axis and the x-axis, and starting from the y-axis, the line is going upward, Now, and meanwhile, the demand curve, that means our consumers with disability and difficulties, right? They are not willing to pay that price. Supply curve is starting higher. The demand curve is starting much lower on the y-axis, and only if the price point is brought below will they do that. Now, imagine if I can tell you real examples, Anirban, that we have this amazing 2-3 products like Rise Bionics, which makes amazing 3D prosthetics. I mean, they're export quality. We have Annie, a device, which is a beautiful device for blind children to learn Braille. I mean, America is buying it, other countries are buying it, but in India, they're like, I don't know. And they have a challenge everywhere, but where are the blind children? Where are they? Oh, we've gone to a school, but where else do they exist? So, first of all, if the demand is there, demand doesn't know where supply doesn't know where demand is. So we cannot discover this. So the demand curve, we cannot discover these consumers. And, maybe the parents are saying, or the person with disability saying, abhi tak, we have never got any device like this. You're not even thinking there is something. So in many ways, they are dormant consumers. They're sleeping right now. There is no expectation because nobody has been catering to such an audience, right? And yes, some will have maybe a lesser paying capacity. That means when the transaction cost goes low, right? Why am I having to make the screen reader software this high? Because I know 10 consumers, I know 1,000 consumers. Boss, I'm going to give you 100,000 consumers. Oh, is that the case? I'm going to get the cost much lower. So this is what today the supply and demand curve are not intersecting. But with open networks, what's going to happen? It's exactly like roads. If I had to go through a private road, I'll have to pay money there, isn't it? I'll have to pay money every time. Hey, so today with open networks, you can go anywhere. So by lowering the transaction cost, it's so easy to find that one person who teaches me driving, and there are incentives like how in Namayatri we are giving that badge to the driver or whatever, and inclusion is going to be built in. We are saying it's going to be at the Beckn protocol level, and obviously because of all this, we are seeing that with open networks, the demand curve and supply curve are going to intersect with each other. What does it mean? More and more consumers are going to be available, and therefore the supply curve can start much lower. It will start at a better price point. And hence, more people are going to come and buy products. So the dormant consumers will become active consumers. More importantly, somebody should be looking at folks like this. I'll give you an example, right? We've got a very close colleague of ours, Narsimha, who's deaf. Okay, and we've seen that he has, in his earlier years, because there are only around 300 to 500 deaf schools in the country. So in his first 4 or 5 years, he was not with his parents. He moved somewhere else to a school for 3 or 4 years, then had to go for high school somewhere else, then went for college somewhere else. He's traveled everywhere except his own house. But could be that these kind of education institutions, through an honest, are discovered, or vice versa. These education institutions are saying, boss, there seems to be a huge deaf contingent. Let's make an education institution, kind of let Narsimha kind of folks pay for it. And, you're doing it much closer to where they are. And, this is what the beauty about open networks is, and that's how purple economy will get unleashed.
This is so beautiful. I mean, every time you explain this, I feel awed every time you do that. And just taking cue from your point that, I mean, the propensity to pay. So I also want to add that even in the open networks of today in ONDC, what we are seeing is, which is different from the platform approach. In platform approach, everybody thinks that, okay, there is one solution and this should go to every strata of the society. But with open networks, we are saying that, okay, there is a particular service provider who wants to serve the premium customer. There is a particular service provider who wants to serve the mid region. There is a particular service provider who wants to serve the low region, probably. So I'm not very sure of the technology, but I'm very sure that, okay, with, I mean, lesser features and everything, this all instruments and aids can be also made at a very lower price, right? So depending on the propensity of paying of the users, there will be service providers who will be serving particular category of the social strata. So I think that's the beauty. That's the beauty we are looking at, and we are already seeing it in ONDC and many places, and we hope to see it very soon for the purple economy as well, right? So we are anyway approaching the hour mark. So just to give our audience an idea, we will do a question answer session towards the end. So please feel free to drop your queries in the chat. We will take it up in probably the last 10 minutes. So just coming back to the idea of open networks and making it purple aware. Shanti, we have discussed about this and we have said that probably this is not going to happen overnight. It will take its own sweet time, right? In the meantime, there can be many micro solutions who will be trying to bridge a gap. I mean, it's very great of Namayatri that they are trying to make themselves aware about the needs, but we can't expect every service provider overnight to transform at that scale, right? So probably the service providers will keep on serving with their standard service, but there can be many third-party service providers, third-party TSPs, technology players who will come in and say, okay, I will bridge the gap. You don't have a video, you don't have an instrument to convert the text to voice or voice to text. I will do that. Pay me 2 rupees per transaction or 1 rupee per transaction, which they are willing to. I will help you with that. So I see a lot of applications of Vashini and the likes of Vashinis to kind of get into this space and add value. And in your mind, what do you think probably will be the first set of service providers who will jump in once they see the opportunities? We have talked about many things like job coaches and all. If you can give an idea to the audience as well.
Yeah. So if we take it from the angle of employment, definitely, for example, today, if I see some of our Enable India folks on the call, they've been placement agents. Okay. They do every transaction. Okay, pehla job analysis karna padta hai. We do the analysis of the job, find the solution, then do the coaching for the person, do the training. Now today, that unbundling which we are talking about, right? That is such an important thing, right? So what does a job coach do? From, if I give an example of we have many persons with autism who are working in different companies, right? But how did that graph of that person go? That job coach is somebody who will actually have to be when they go for their first opportunity. Maybe they go for an exposure opportunity, and after that, the job coach says, "Hey, what are you aspiring for?" Then, for example, there was this guy who went for an opportunity and then learned hospitality training. Learned from that. The job coach was there during that time. Then got another opportunity where he learned digitization. So from an internship, that time the job coach needs to be there to enable the person, just to bridge that gap in the beginning. After that, this guy is in a multinational company, because these opportunities enable this person to truly understand, oh, this is what I aspire for, this is what I'm good at. Excellent. So now here again, you need the job coach, right? So in each of these things, the expertise is very different. Maybe I'm not right now, somebody is not good at knowing how to do job coaching for a person with autism. But honestly, if all the people who can ever be a job coach, decide to become a job coach for a person with autism, they should be doing job coaching for many more people in the country. This could be a profession that maybe persons without disability honestly need. I think all of us in our first job, we are highly unemployable, man.
I can.
I would take that job coach for anybody who works with me. Okay, this is already like open network, open information to everybody. Yeah, Dipesh, go ahead.
Yeah, no, and also adding to that, I think the question also comes in: how do you remove a barrier? Basically, when sometimes I think we talk about things, right? There is disability has some inabilities, but there are certain things we call it workplace solutions. So how do I enable a solution to happen? And one example I can give is we started working with State Bank of India, and State Bank of India had the reservation quota, right? We all know that there is a 3% and now 4% reservation quota in the government and PSU banks. And the nice thing of SBI said that we are actually hiring person with specifically visual impairment and hearing impairment. How do we make them productive? Because earlier for visually impaired, phone calls was what they used to do. Nowadays, we are not able to actually utilize them into various jobs. So like Shanti said, I think what are the different job roles? So one of the example where the job role was, can I look at a job role which is passbook printing? And if I can put a person in the front office in a bank, and today also, even after having a lot of online and all that, people still in villages like to go and print their passbooks. So we identified and said that if I have to enable a job which is passbook printing job for a visually impaired person, totally blind, what are the barriers? The biggest barrier was reading the account number. Once the person reads the account number, it can go into the screen reader software, can take care of the printing and all that can be done. But how do you read the account number? And that is why basically we went to the managers and said, can you barcode your passbook? And this was almost 10 years back, saying that you just barcode your passbook. And if you can barcode the passbook, the account number goes into the system, the screen reader software takes up, the whole printing and all that can be done. But what was very significant was basically with this simple workplace solution, and nice of SBI that they agreed and said, we'll barcode our passbooks. So, so what was significant with this is basically a job role, which is passbook printing job, opened up in the village where the person is. And interestingly, 22,000 branches of State Bank of India, 22,000 jobs to open up. So what with just solution, and this is a simple mindset, right? It's how do I just enable things to happen? And it was as simple as, and today basically people actually thank, because many times even a sighted, when they're entering 3 zeros, 4 zeros for an account number, you make mistakes and you keep redoing it. Now barcode reader is taking care of your productivity as well. So we say that actually the life of everybody becomes easier if you are looking at solutions which are simplifying the job in some way.
So not only retail consumers, I see there is a huge business-to-business opportunity as well. I mean, probably the likes of Enable India's can enlist those skills that we have the skilled trainers and all in the networks, and probably the other side, the SBIs and Bank of Barodas of the world, they can come in and kind of consume the services. I mean, there's a huge opportunity. I believe there is a discoverability problem there as well. Not everybody knows who are the skilled trainers. Not everybody knows what jobs they can use them for. I mean, there's a huge gap. No, fantastic. So just probably moving to the last question, and I will like to kind of quote Shayam Dev here, Den, our beloved Den that I made. For the audience, we went to Enable India's office, and Shayam Dev Den, he told us one thing, which I mean has been etched in my heart since then. He said that probably you, Anirban, spend 100 rupees to live a quality life, right? But a person with a minor disability to live that quality of life spends 115, and a person with severe disability probably spends 125, right? There's a gap of this 25, which kind of provoked two thoughts in me. When we include, let's say, the 10%, 50% of the PwD consumer group to such open networks, we are not opening up opportunity for 15%. We are actually effectively opening up opportunity of another 20%, because this 15% will do more than 100% and they will do 1.25, which turns out to be 20%. So probably the estimates are also wrong. We don't know the ratio. And this 25 rupees extra is actually creating extra jobs. They are creating jobs for caregivers, physiotherapists, skills trainers, and all those things we talked about. So, I mean, what is your thought on that? I mean, you guys have worked in this particular field a lot. So what is your thought on this? I mean, are we having the right estimates, or where are we?
Right estimates with respect to, can you, sorry, can you?
So, I mean, when we say that there is a 15%, so do you think that the numbers are getting actually wrong?
No, it's absolutely correct, you know. I mean, just to give you an example, right? If you go to the hospital for jaundice, you go for jaundice and you come out, right? Now, just think about somebody who gets severely, you know, who's just gotten into an accident, has a spinal cord injury. Okay, you're not thinking about the fact that that person is, you know, there are so many other services that have to get unleashed. You know what happens very often? Oh, abhi aapka spinal cord injury, you're disabled. You go and you're lying down at home. There are people who have been lying down 10 years on a bed. That, you know, so 20%. So this has never been thought about. This is part of the 20%. You know, maybe in the beginning you require a caregiver. Meanwhile, the physiotherapist comes. Oh, by the way, a counselor, because I tell you, see, we work on disability, all that is there. We know you have a life. But at that minute, when you get a disability, you need that counselor. So this was not thought about before, right? Nobody's thinking this is a requirement. It is a requirement.
Okay.
And can you imagine if all of us in the country never are now bothered? Mera ye finger gaya, haath gaya, pair gaya. It doesn't matter if any problem happens to you, boss, one counselor will be there, one rehab will be there, one blah, blah will be there. And thanks to open networks and let's say the unified health interface, they know immediately that somebody like me exists or whatever, right? So we're actually going to work on just none of us feeling bad about anything. But that is that 20%. That 20% which we didn't think about. Maybe in the 13th century, we were the 20%, right? Like this didn't exist, you know? So it's more than 20% according to me, because I'll tell you why. A person with cancer who lost an arm, a diabetic person who's lost a leg, is not thinking of themselves as disabled, but they require the same services. When my mom had an elbow operation, she had to modify her dresses, you know, with zip and other things, because it's an adaptive clothing. That time you can't use your elbow well. You know, when she had a knee surgery, she needed a toilet seat ke upar, you know, you have an extra seat which you can attach. Nobody's thinking, this is all 20%. Maybe it's 30%. You know?
So probably exactly that is probably 30%, because if I am breaking a leg, and in literal sense, if I have a broken leg and I have a plaster for 30 days, I'm equally disabled as a person who doesn't have a leg, right? So this is not only about the people who have physical disabilities. Probably we have to think broader, and we have to think that temporarily many times we are also equally disabled. So this is an opportunity for us to serve these people as well. So I mean, probably the numbers are wrong, and it's much more than 15%.
Yeah. Anirban, just one thought basically, which I keep saying, right, that sometimes, and why it's so wonderful about this whole Beckn protocol and open networks is because I always say that many times we think what we know is the world. There's the world out there. And I think the whole thing about what we are talking about, unlocking the purple economy, is actually what you're saying. I don't even know. It may be less, more, no idea. But I think what today we are saying is we are going to unlock this purple economy, where we can see so many various examples where we can be surprised with what is happening and what people come up with. And that is the power of this whole, I think, the open networks we are talking about, right? Because it's unleashing what can be discovered. And purple economy is
Yeah.
on the path of discovery. That's all I can say, basically.
Yeah.
We see a value,
Exactly,
right? But that's the whole idea.
Right.
Yeah.
So we are, almost about to touch the hour mark. So we have a couple of questions in the chat. Shanti,
Yeah.
Dipesh, would you like to take up
Yeah,
any
yeah, yeah,
questions?
absolutely. I'll take some of those questions. For example, Raman, who's a gentleman, I know him from Bihar, and thanks for him asking something about the rural folks. Yeah, how do we actually look at rural beneficiaries under purple economy, right? So let's be realistic. Let's say, for example, in fact, I don't know whether you're aware of the Deaf Empowerment Foundation or Hak Darshak and others who actually enable folks to get their government scheme. Because in the rural area, first you need a government scheme which hopefully gives you a house or whatever it is. Now, maybe just that government scheme, in fact, Hak Darshak and many others, they charge a small fee to help you to unlock that government scheme. If you're, in fact, they run you through some rules. If you're from BPL and you're this and you're this, oh, these are the schemes you're eligible for now at the age of 20. At the age of 40, you're eligible for this. So, and you're willing to pay that money, right? So you may never have thought of persons with disability there. For example, the common service centers, about 3, in fact, it was during COVID times, Dipesh, if you remember, right?
Yeah.
We were looking, and common service centers were looking at, hey, can I unlock some services for persons with disability, right? So we can start there. But for me, what I see amazing value about purple economy, guys, everybody on this call, according to us, artificial intelligence cannot take away purple economy jobs. Okay, we will use artificial intelligence for building knowledge for language models so that we can get the right knowledge and information at the right time. But in a rural area, if there's that same spinal cord injured person or somebody who is blind or whatever is there, maybe in the beginning a caregiver is required. Could that neighbor be that way? And could that be part of NREGA? NREGA is mostly NREGA, which we mean is the Rural Employment Guarantee Act. In that, mostly it's about building lakes and bunds and blah, blah. I don't know, we've been asking this question, can this be part of NREGA? And then in that 100, days of jobs that you get, could it be a caregiver for somebody else? This is also women's empowerment, because usually it's otherwise the mother or the grandmother doing this job. And can they get paid for this? I don't know. I just feel so excited when I think of this, So Raman, I hopefully have answered that question.
I'll take the other one.
Also,
Shanti,
just to add to that, before Dipesh, you jump in, just a small addition to that. I mean, when we think about the rural opportunities, I think ONDC is already in a matured state where probably we can enable this kind of. I saw somebody talk about digital artists. I saw somebody talk about handicrafts and all. Probably we can, if there is somebody in the call who are very connected to them, they can aggregate them, put them on ONDC, where they become discoverable beyond their particular village and like to pan India. I think there is a huge opportunity which we already have. We should take a look into that. So please Dipesh, for the next one.
No. So absolutely, I think there is a question from DN and Dr. Veena Tripathi both. I'll just combine. Purple economy should be tapped into upcoming key features of India Budget 2024. I think very, very important. I think we know that 0.04% is probably the budget of India today for disability sector. And the question which I'm just connecting the two is, how do we unlock the attention of the government? I think the main point being of purple economy, we think it's going to unleash 100 million jobs. And that should be enough for the government to pay attention. I think that and I think every government is looking at how do I create employment jobs and all that. So I think if we tap into that and say that here is what we need to unlock, because 100 million jobs are possible. So,
in fact, if I can add to that, in the central government, our PwD department has already started saying purple economy. When we got a chance to meet one of the ministers, we've spoken about this. We are purposely ensuring that we've got the foundations with Beckn going. And then after that, it's easier for the government to see how it will happen. You don't want to just get, hey, there's something called purple economy. We are like, this is what it is. Here's Namayatri. You already go with that information. So you're absolutely right. We are going to go all guns because of all of you. We are not going alone to anything. In fact, somebody asked, what's the role of Enable India? We are only orchestrating this. In an orchestra, we are you're
Enabling
going to play
India.
the violin. It's an enablement. You'll play the violin, somebody will play the drum, and only if we all are playing together, we're going to have awesome purple economy music going on. So yes, but thank you for that question. I think I'd like to answer another question which was very important about Aditya. He's saying, hey, we know the unique challenges with different disabilities, unique solutions. I'm wondering how a potential service provider could identify these common solutions to reach a larger market. So Aditya, absolutely amazing question. I'll tell you what we are thinking of doing, and I think we just need all of your suggestions. This is not us knowing things, it's about orchestrating, right? You guys are going to give some of these answers. The question has come to you, right? But one thing we're doing is, first of all, we're doing a research, not it's an action research almost, right? But what we're trying to do is, first of all, come up with a purple jobs compendium. That means we already know from an employment angle, what are the kind of jobs that could exist in the purple economy. And we're not going to just build it that way. We are actually going to go to all of our communities of people with lived experiences of disability and NGOs and enterprises, and just ask them to do the reimagination. We are going to give 2 examples. After that, we are going to keep quiet, because our community is awesome. They are going to grab this with both hands and they're going to come up with the ideas. We are going to just relax. So we gave one example, education inclusion agent, a fashion agent, blah, blah. After that, we're going to keep quiet. All of you are going to come up with those examples, and that will also help us in one way to realize what's that extra potential, right? And I think we are also looking at, the research with respect to where the supply and demand is. And so we're doing some things by which we would be hopefully able to inform the supplier, of these are the needs. And I think the best ways, Anirban, would be that if the needs of the disabled are getting bubbled up, I'm using autos, but I'm not getting this. I'm using cabs, but I'm not this. I would love to have this. That data analytics, because see, even if you go to Namia 3, all of us can see how many rides are being done, how many are completed, what is there, what is not there. That's the beauty about open networks. So that means that data is available to anybody in the country, and they can see the opportunity there. And with
probably tomorrow we will see the number of purple rides as well on the open data portal.
Exactly.
And somebody in Mysore will pick it up, say that, okay, there is an opportunity. Somebody in Kolkata will pick that up. Absolutely.
Yeah.
Please.
I think the other one which was being asked, I thought, was about B2B. Very good question from Samson, who runs a wonderful organization which has persons with disability, and he is a business. And, so I think, Anirban, this would be a good question in the B2B space. How does it work in open networks? That would be a good question for you.
Yeah. So anyway, ONDC is activating B2B as well, but that's on the commerce side. While on Honest also, we will very soon see that beyond retail consumers, we are going to have B2B transactions, which means, let's say Infosys has a program which needs 10 skill givers or something like that. They will come and publish that intent in a network, in the same network of Honest, which can be fulfilled by many service providers who are on the other side. So the same network can be utilized for retail transactions as well as B2B transactions. So it's just about the phasing out when we activate that, but we are already seeing it in ONDC in case of grocery and other commerce transactions, that they are already doing B2B transactions there. We are very soon going to see that in Honest like networks as well, where, like you said, SBI can come, Bank of Baroda can come and look for the skills, rather skill givers that they are looking for. That's going to be very soon done.
Anirban, it's striking me, maybe for the community of persons with disability and our whole community there, perhaps a very simple Honest, ONDC, like it's not the Beckn community, so maybe we could have another session where, because just see the kind of amazing thoughts that are coming from different people. Like I'm just seeing this thought from Kshitij, right? He's saying, hey, this platform could be used to get proactive feedback of what is working for the disabled person and what is not working. Exactly, right? So now if they know more, how does B2B work? What is Honest? How does this work exactly? Because many of these folks will be suppliers.
Yeah, sorry, just only say, I want to add one point. We don't want to see anything as a different network, because why I will tell you, the moment you create a different network for that, it creates the same problem of discoverability, right? I mean, that guy has to be on that network. If we create everything on the same network, on Honest or a ONDC, then it becomes very easily discoverable. Like probably a person who doesn't have the need of a mobility service, looking for something else, and suddenly discovers that, okay, there is this service available as well. There is a prosthetic service. There is some, health giving, caregiving service as well available. So that becomes very easily kind of, discoverable, natural, universal. So that's the whole idea.
Yeah.
But
No,
definitely
Anirban,
there
I
can
actually
I think
meant a webinar. I meant a different webinar only to the audience. But it was good you mentioned this.
Sure.
It's good you mentioned this because
Sure.
we've had
Yeah.
these conversations now. Ki purple separate hona hai, should it be separate or not? So in one way, by mistake, you've answered something which was important.
Yeah. So Anirban, I think that also connects with the question with Navneet Sharma is asking that what are skilling implications for enabling those jobs which purple economy can generate.
Yes.
I think that's where, for example, we have to kind of look at that. Obviously, that skilling needs or barriers. I think there is a slight addition to that. So obviously, I think it can be built on the honest, but obviously experiences like we have about 300 plus job roles, which we have documented, developed and all that. And for that, what is the skilling or employability training required, which has been done. But I think I'm sure that there'll be thousands such things available across the country. We can actually discover that and build it. And my thinking is it can be the honest platform which can provide that platform for doing this.
Absolutely. I think Enable India should become one of those pioneers who kind of go and whatever data or information that you have, put it on honest, make it discoverable for everyone, and many people will follow suit. I believe there are many people who are not from Enable India are also kind of watching this. They will also feel inspired. They will also get to know how to do it, right? So once Enable India shows the path, they will also become the followers.
If I can just add to what, if I can just add to Navneetji's question, right? For enabling the jobs in the purple economy, that means it could be somebody, just to take that same example of that gentleman who learned driving, that cerebral palsy who learned driving, or job coaching for an intellectual disabled. So that means we need people who will learn to do that. So that's a different, it's skilling the person who will then get a job in the purple sector, right? So those, I feel the community themselves, many of us who have been doing, especially in NGOs, end-to-end work, that is why we can't scale our operations. One placement agent can do X amount of work. So that kind of thing, we have to learn, Navneetji, to unbundle. So when we look at post-placement service in a company, for a deaf person, on the first day, we only go and fill his form because there are very words which are not understandable because it's not in sign language. So now if, let's say, Anirban wants to become, the service provider for that, all he needs to know is, basic science, great. These are the type of questions that will come, and this is what you're going to sign for. And if you learn this, you can become a certified initial hand holder for the deaf. You can help to fill the form on the first day for the deaf. That's what Anirban will become, the skill, get a job for, so to speak, or a gig job, right? It's only maybe a part-time job for 2 hours. So that's how we're looking at it, Navneet. I hope that answers your question. I hope I was clear, but yeah, I can't give more examples right now, but I hope that makes sense.
Yeah. Excellent explanation. And we will, just for the audience, we will try to address all the questions. Anyway, the session is getting recorded, so we will have a transcript of the questions. We will try to address as many as we can over emails. We have all the persons who have attended their emails, so we will try to address that. And we are also already seeing, ideas bubbling in the chat, because I see Aditya is saying that these people are high value consumers who are willing to pay premiums in the insurance market. Nobody is thinking about that. So thanks, Aditya, for the idea. Yeah. Great. So I think this is time when we wrap. I wish we could have gone further. Definitely we need a second session of this. I will request the community team to arrange for a second one. So just to summarize, we have talked about many things. We have talked about the transition from accessibility to usability to experience. We have talked about the opportunities that will be opened up, the economic benefits. Why does it make sense to go through open networks? Why discoverability is probably one of the fundamental problems, and how that can be solved by the buyers and sellers and everyone on open networks. So thanks a lot, Shanti and Dipesh, for joining in. Thanks everyone for joining in. It has been an absolute privilege for me to host you guys and have this very fruitful discussion. So yeah, till the next time.
Thank you. Our pleasure. Thanks for inviting.
So
yes, so much. And everybody for listening. Thanks.
Thank you so much. Thank you, everybody. Have a great day. And yes, I'm looking for Navneetji's email ID.
Sure. I think he has put it in.
Yeah.
So can we end the session then?
Yep.
Thank you.
Thank
Thank you,
you,
guys.
Dr. Renuka
Thanks a lot.
and Saurav
Thank
as
you,
well.
Saurav. Thank you, Renuka.
Yeah,
Awesome
thanks.
job.
Thanks, Dr. Renuka, and thanks, Saurav. A lot. Thanks a lot for staying there till the last and helping us out. Thank you. Thank you.